Yes, theoretically we could fit another 7 students in, but it would be quite small. Are you comfortable like this, or do you think this room is not suitable?
But if we get 7 more, then no.
No. I can ask for a new room. You might have noticed there's all sorts of timetabling stuff going on at the moment and room booking stuff going on, which is partly to do with some buildings have been knocked down and the replacement buildings are not ready yet. So I hope this will get better during the year when the new buildings open, but I think for now it is as it is. Let's have a look, maybe some more come in, maybe some put it down as an option, because as far as I know nobody has to take this module. Or is there anybody here who has to take this module? Okay. Yeah, so which course are you on?
Digital media.
Digital media. Okay, so some students have to take this module, but most don't have to take this module. So it could be that some students just put it down, change their mind, and the timetable just hasn't been updated yet. I'll ask whether we can get a better room. I'm not too optimistic, but certainly worth a try. So welcome to this module, BT3023, and this module is about web content management systems. But could you come with me? We just have a few more chairs in case some more students come. If you and I have a chair each, then. Well, whoever's in the neighbor room next will get a surprise of the missing chairs. Thank you. Okay, in this module we'll be looking at web content management systems. Is anybody here who's not sure yet whether they want to stick with this module? Some students might just want to have a listen to the first class, see what the module is all about, and then maybe change the option. Anybody here in that situation? Because if there's somebody here in that situation, I can address your questions directly. Otherwise, I'll just go on the normal way. So, web content management systems. I'll give you a very, very short explanation what they are, so that you feel confident you are in the right module. Okay, in the 90s, if you wanted a web page, you would have programmed it in HTML. Then times moved on, late 90s, early 2000s, we had languages we could use to generate HTML. And one of those languages is PHP. That's the language that's used to create Facebook, that's used to create Wikipedia. And some of you have done the module BT3023 last year. Some of you with very high grades, actually, the way I remember it. And that was the next step forward, yeah. In the 90s we had static web pages. They were not much more than a brochure. We then had languages like PHP, where we could create code, but companies were still basically creating their websites from scratch. But if you look at websites these days, they're usually all following the same side of scheme. We've got a logo in the corner, we got some menus across the top or across the side. We click on the menus, we go to a specific page. We have maybe several users who are supposed to work on that page from the company's point of view. So they should have some permissions to do things. So in the end, most of the web pages, especially if they're just a web page showing off your company to the web, most of those web pages will look the same. Of course, there will be very specialized web pages that do different things. But we kind of need a web page. If we don't have a web page, other companies might think this is not a real company, they don't even have a web page. I'll move this around. Let's put it here. Okay, we need a web page. If we don't have one, other companies think, is that even a real company or is it some sort of bogus thing somebody made up? Saying that even bogus companies can have web pages. But yeah, companies need a web page. They are usually always all the same. Yeah? You have a restaurant, you sell garden supplies, whatever it might be, most of the web pages look the same. So where does a web content management system come in? It's basically something we can download for free. And that's not because there's some sort of hidden advertising or some trick with it, but it's just that the people who created the system, they give it away for free. Usually they work in this area anyway, usually they're programmers anyway, they probably even earn their money with this kind of system, but they program a bit in their free time and they give this away as open source software. The same as the software behind Wikipedia, for example, is open source software. So companies can download this software, they can put it on a server, so that we need a web space for it, where we can put the files. We need a database, where we can basically store the information. And we can then use this off-the-shelf system. In our case, it will be a system called Joomla, Joomla. Which is, depending on how you measure it, but on most measures it's the most popular web content management system. So they can install the system on their server. They've got basically a blank web page that knows how websites are supposed to work. Yeah? It knows how menus work. It knows how there's a logo, there are pictures, and it's basically an empty scaffolding you can fill with things. So as part of this module, you'll learn how to install this system and basically how to give a company a website. And a lot of our efforts will also be focused on the permissions. Yeah? Let's say you are selling used cars. Maybe you have one used car person responsible for all the let's say all the Ford cars, and another one responsible for all the Volkswagen cars. You can then, for example, divide up. You can divide up the permissions so that you can, for example, say our Volkswagen guy is only allowed to work in the Volkswagen part of the web page, where we display our used Volkswagen cars. Our Ford guy is only allowed to work in the Ford part of the web page. But you could have a supervisor, he's allowed to work in both areas. Or you could have somebody responsible for commercial vehicles. They can work in all commercial vehicles independent of whether they are a Ford or a Volkswagen. Like little vans. So you could have a situation. Could I get different colors? Do you have green? Yeah. Okay, yeah. Let's say here's a Ford. Imagine this text represents one of my Ford cars, and this is my Volkswagen. This is supposed to represent now one car on my car, and now I've got let's say I've got a VW van. Then I can, for example, do it in such a way that the VW guy can work with all the VWs, and the van guy can work with all the vans, independent of whether they're VW or Ford. So there's a lot of fine-tuning that can be done here, which is usually necessary in the real world. I helped a company in Preston. They're selling very expensive microscopes to companies and to research centers. Like a microscope costs as much as a car, basically. Yeah, and they have different people responsible for different microscopes. So the Olympus guy is supposed to only work in the Olympus area. The Leica guy is only supposed to work in the Leica area, and so on. So that's the kind of stuff you will learn here. What did you say you studied? Was it? Marketing. Okay. Anybody here who studies design?
Same course.
Same course.
Same course.
And anybody who studies something about design?
No,
No, not design.
Digital.
So this is yeah, you will get marked on the functionality. Yeah, I will not say the shade of purple you pick does not fit with the shade of pink on this web page. Yeah, it's not about how to make it look good. I think that would be a whole course in itself. Plus, I assume you would have to be talented for that. So this will be about the functionality. You will be marked on the functionality. If it doesn't look so good, that's fine. If it looks good, maybe I can give you some extra points. But you know, that's just a little bit of the cherry on the top, maybe. Or if you have a very good piece of work and it looks good on top, you know, maybe instead of getting 75, you get 78 or something like that. But usually, you know, we're not about the design because that's out of the scope of this module. Okay. Well, and now this doesn't work. Let's try again. Yeah. Okay. I'm the course leader for the international business course, and sometimes there will be announcements to make. Very often it's very general stuff. For example, you know, this is going on at the university. I don't know, the timetables are down, or oops, there's a free piece of software you can get. I usually make those announcements on Twitter, and Twitter just reposts to Facebook. So if you use Twitter or Facebook anyway, it might be worth following those accounts because of the announcements of a general nature I make there. But you know, if you don't use Twitter or Facebook, don't bother create an account especially. If you use WeChat, I can show you my WeChat barcode. Actually, it was there, but I thought I'd remove it. Because otherwise I'd lose the overview which students are on my course and which students are not on my course. But if you're interested in following me on WeChat, I'll show you the barcode. Okay, yeah, it's a year-long module. Unfortunately, it looks like we might have to change rooms a few times because of the size of the group. And I've been told that there's 1 week where they couldn't find a room for us at all, a computer room that is. Lecture rooms, they said it's fine, but computer rooms, they did have some problems finding computer rooms. So wherever we are, you know, I think today is CMO's 33. And next week could be somewhere else. So the best thing is you check your timetable before you go. But this is quite useful advice anyway at UCLan, because you can be moved around. So it's always good, maybe on Monday or first thing in the morning, you check the online timetable. You could bookmark it on your phone, and while you walk between buildings, you can just have a quick look. Obviously not while you're crossing the street or anything like that. But it's quite good advice to check the timetables because they can change. Okay, assessments. There are 2. Okay, one more, and then we need to get more chairs. There are 2 pieces of assessment. One is a written report, 1,500 words. And the deadline, I put the deadline in the module information pack. Module information pack. And these handouts are on Blackboard. I used to print them up until last year, but you know, I often would walk away with so many printouts. I thought it's kind of a waste. I'll just put them on Blackboard now instead of printing them. So deadline is on the module information pack. We can check that later. But we've got this written report where you basically write 1,500 words. That's not too much about content management systems and how they help companies. I will give you some assignments from the previous years that got a first-class grade, and I will give you some academic papers. I will give those to you as paper printouts. So you have an idea what kind of, what I kind of expect. So I think what's especially useful is when I give you a few assignments from the previous years where you can see what kind of work got a good grade. But you'll basically be writing 1500 words how a CMS can help an organization. And what organization you pick is up to you. Yeah? Could be a retailer, it could be a local council, it could be a charity. Completely up to you. The main piece of work, 70% of your grade, will be the actual content management system you do. So we will create a content management system based on Joomla. If you have very strong reasons why you want to pick another system, something other than Joomla, you can discuss it with me, and we might come to an agreement. Some students come to me and say, can I use WordPress? And there are a few reasons why I'm normally not happy with you using WordPress. Anybody here knows WordPress or has used WordPress? Good. And if nobody knows it or has used it, I can skip that part anyway. Otherwise I'll explain now why WordPress is not suitable. But if you don't know WordPress, I'll leave it. So you will do a CMS. It could be for a real company, it could be for a pretend company, it could be for your hobby. Yeah. Let's say you are at UCLAN's Knitting Appreciation Society, and they don't have a website. You can make a website for the Knitting Appreciation Society, or for the red wine drinkers of Lancashire, or whatever it might be. So it could be your hobby, could be a real company, could be a pretend company. But we'll need to set it up in such a way that we can manage the whole site, which means we want a site that has several areas. So let's say your uncle or your aunt, they have a company and they say, oh, can you please make a company for me? Perfectly fine. But even if, let's say, your aunt is the only person managing the site, for the purpose of the assignment we'll have to pretend there's more than one person working on it, so that we can manage permissions and things like that. Okay. So, how will it usually work? We have the class here, the lecture, and after the lecture we'll go to the computer room and you can work on some tasks. If you have done BT3023, could you please lift your hand? I recognize that you faces. Okay. The first part of the module will be bringing everybody up to speed. There are no prerequisites on this module. Anybody can take this module, but students who have not done BT3023 don't know what HTML is, or possibly don't know. They might know, but it's not a requirement to know, so we have to start from scratch. So I'm gonna explain HTML, PHP on some superficial level to everybody. So if you've done BT3023, maybe the first few weeks will be a bit slow for you. But please don't think, oh, this module is easy, and switch off and stop attending, because once everybody's up to speed what HTML and PHP is, we'll start with the content management system. If you haven't done BT3023, don't feel you are at a disadvantage, because in the end you don't need to code anything in HTML. You don't need to code anything in PHP, but I want to explain those concepts to everybody because it will help you understand how the CMS works. It will help you understand why some things are the way they are. Yeah? There's a difference between running an application that's installed on your machine and running an application on a web server and you accessing over the web. There's some quirks, there's some differences, and if you know how HTML works, if you know how PHP works, I think it's easier for you to understand why the things are the way they are. But you know, there's no disadvantage if you haven't done it before, because you're not going to have to code. It's just to help you understand how everything fits together. Okay. Before I go on with talking about HTML, PHP, and so on, a quick, I want to have a look who's here, because I need to create accounts on our server for you. So basically, today we can't really start with a proper workshop, because the kind of work we need to do needs to be on our web server, which means you need to have an account on our web server. You don't have an account on our web server yet, and basically the table with student names I get is not always reliable. So I'm going to check now who's here. I'm going to make a note who needs an account created on the web server. I'll then create it for next week. And we can then start our computer room workshops probably next week. Is there anybody here, after hearing what the module is about, who doesn't want to do the module anymore? You still all want to do the module? I'm asking because no point in me creating a database account for you and a web account if you're going to leave anyway. So anybody who wants to leave the module? No? Okay.